effective decisions. Our topic for today, just like the last few weeks, is based on this award-winning self-help book by Charles Duhigg called Smarter, Faster, Better. And today I'd like to share some interesting techniques that the author has shared with us to help us make effective decisions. However, like every week, I'd like to start our discussion with a question. Why even make decisions? Right? Because very often life just keeps on going and we don't always make decisions about things, but we still end up somewhat okay, right? So why make decisions? So I think decisions are useful because when circumstances, they give us some sort of choice, we get to make a choice. And when we do, we get to choose the outcome, right? In some way, because we all have preferences, right? And we exercise these preferences in simple things like maybe deciding what to make or what to eat for lunch, or it can be other things like what sort of a job do I want to do, or what sort of a job offer do I want to accept, right? So I think a good enough reason to make decisions is so we can in some way, in the short term or in the long term, decide the course of our lives, right? And if you're like me, you would even question that, right? So why decide the course of my life? Why not just let it keep flowing the way it is? So I think I want to decide in some way the course of my life because I am happy and I'm healthy, but I want to be happier if I can be, and I want to be healthier if I can be. And I think, at least in my case, I definitely could be happier. I'm very happy right now, but I could be happier. I feel healthy right now. I feel fit, but I could also be healthier, right? And I think making decisions, in some way, we make decisions because we want to be happy and healthy. And very often, it can be a decision about things that make us happy, but they might not be healthy for us, or things that might be healthy for us, but they might not make us very happy. So I think, when we make decisions, we in some way pick and choose the things, the prospects according to our own preferences. And I think that is why I make decisions, and I just wanted to share that as to why why I make decisions. Let's see what a few reasons are to not make decisions. So if I know you personally over the past week or so, I might have covertly asked you this question already to get a consensus on what are some of the common reasons why we tend to not make decisions. And one popular reason that everybody that I spoke with, including myself, had for not making decisions is because I and a few other people that I spoke with were thought that, I don't think decisions are really that important because things might not work out as I planned for. So why make a decision? Another popular reason was because I might just not know enough to make a decision, right? So why should I make a decision based on not based on this half knowledge of something, right? And what I found interesting was that the author exactly sort of countered these two arguments that most people make for not making decisions. So let's give the author a chance and let's see if his arguments, they're able to resolve both of these reasons to not make decisions. So what is decision making? So this is the author's words. He thinks decision making is in some way our attempts to forecast the future. And to that, I'd like to add, we make decisions to not only forecast the future, but also in some way to affect it, right? Kind of what we discussed earlier. We make decisions to determine the course of our lives in some way. So based on all of this, I came up with I broke down decision making into these three sort of bullets. And I then sort of laddered up all the insights that the author shared up to these three bullets. So what is decision making, right? It is, as we discussed, it's predicting and preparing for the future. And what do you make predictions on? We make predictions based on past experiences, right? So we have these experiences in the past. We're about to make some sort of prediction of something from the future, right? But all of this happens in the present, right? So all of this, I don't know, thinking, introspecting, judgment, all of that happens in the present, in our present understanding of our past experiences and of this hypothetical scenario in the future, right? So it's all very relative, right? So decision making, according to the book and according to how I could break down things, sort of loosely fell under these three points, sort of. And whenever we make a decision, we in some way or the other go through these 3 steps. So let's discuss the first step, predicting the future. This is exactly what predicting the future doesn't feel and look like, according to the author. And I'm so thankful for that. The author says we can predict the future using math, and this also sounds just as scary to me as gazing into a crystal ball, right? Why would we use math to make decisions? But the author also dispels that fear by explaining to us that everything that we think of, right, when we predict it, we need to think in terms of chances, like not some giant mathematical formula, but simply in terms of chances, right? So a simple example could be, I see it's cloudy outside. It hasn't been sunny all day today. So I'm gonna ask myself, right? Do you think it's gonna rain today, Apurva? Right? And I might have some sort of an opinion about it, right? So that's what the author tells us. Is he tells us we need to think about things in terms of chances, or if you're like very mathematically inclined, in terms of probability. And they're on the same thing, right? Thinking in terms of chances, I think, is a philosophical way of going about it, and thinking in terms of probability is a mathematical way of going about it. But the good thing about this approach is when we think in terms of chances, we need to realize that we can't ever be too sure of anything, right? So even if I'm absolutely sure, hey, it's not gonna rain today, but because I'm not too sure, right? Because I'm thinking in terms of chances, I'm not thinking in terms of absolutes, right? So yeah, it's cloudy. My weather app says it's not gonna rain, but hey, it's so cloudy. Let me follow my gut feeling and carry an umbrella, right? And again, if you're mathematically inclined, the probability of something, if it's less than 0.5 or less than 50%, chances of something happening are lower. Things might not happen. If the probability is more than 50%, things are likely to happen. But even if it's more than 50%, it can never be 100%, right? It can only be 100% in retrospect. So that's the beauty, I think, of sort of thinking in terms of chances or probability, is we leave out a chance we give it a benefit of the doubt. Maybe I didn't think of it enough. Maybe it will rain, so let me carry an umbrella. I found this funny picture about thinking in terms of chances. Okay, so this funny cartoon, right? These 2 students likely just learned about probability. They're sitting outside the principal's office. One of them says he doesn't think his odds are good, right? So he predicts that they're gonna get into the room and maybe they're gonna get a scolding for something that they did, right? But the good thing is that this person is thinking about it in terms of probability, right? So if they actually do end up getting scolded, guess what? He was at least right about something, right? He guessed it, he predicted it right. So there's something to celebrate, right? And if they go meet their principal and they don't get scolded, now they can celebrate not being scolded, right? So when we sort of adopt this this way of thinking about things, it's a win-win situation, I feel like. We either are right or we either learn something new. Another funny picture, I guess we already spoke about it, right? One person says she can't believe something happened and she questions what are the chances, right? It's just a way of saying, right? At least in the United States, when something happens out of the ordinary, you say, what are the chances? And her friend, I guess she seems like a realist. She says, since it did happen, she thinks it's 100%. Yes, in retrospect, you can put a number you can put a probability, right? Towards something happening or not. If it happened, probability is 100%. If it didn't happen, it's 0. But when it hasn't happened, you don't really know where that number is. So you can either say it's mostly gonna happen or mostly not gonna happen. So what can you do with past experience, right? Now we spoke about trying to predict the future in some way, trying to affect it in some way. And we also discussed all of these predictions are based on our past experiences. Let's talk a bit more about what we can do with past experiences. Okay? So we can reflect and introspect on them, and we can think about why something worked, why did it work, and why did something that didn't work, why did it not work? And here the author shares something interesting, which I completely agree with. He shares that when we think about things from the past, we in some way are immune to our own inherent biases about those things. So maybe I can share that with an example, right? So again, going back to that hypothetical example of me trying to step out, trying to predict the weather, right? It was really cloudy, but I had these new pair of shoes and they were not waterproof. So I told myself, hey, Apurva, it's not gonna rain. Weather app said it's not gonna rain. You're gonna be okay. And I went out and it rained that day, right? My shoes were fine, but they were not supposed to be drenched in water. So I came back, and throughout the day I was, thinking about the weather app. I'm like, I don't know why this weather app lied to me. I don't know why technology failed me, right? And I come home in not the best moods, and I can't really understand what went wrong, right? But gave it a few weeks or a few months have passed, and now I'm thinking back to that day, right? But so today, when I think back, I can clearly tell, hey, back then, I just wanted to wear those new shoes. So I just, in a way, told myself it's not gonna rain because my end goal was to wear those shoes. It wasn't to, not get drenched in the rain, right? So the good thing is when we think about things from the past, we're a bit more immune to these biases, and these biases are a bit obvious to us when we think about things from the past. And secondly, when we think about things in the past, again, because these biases are more obvious, we learn about them. We learn about ourselves better when we think about things from the past. And not only do we learn about our internal biases, we also learn about external nuances, right? We just learn more about how the world works. Because when we think about things in retrospect, we realize, oh yes, now I know I shouldn't entirely trust the weather app. Now I know, if it's the month of, I don't know, November or December in North America, it's very likely it's going to start raining, even if the app says it's not going to rain. Right? So that's what the author shares. What helps us when we think about things in the past is that we're immune to biases, and secondly, when we do this introspection, we learn more about us, about the world. So a good question that the author has shared in this book: can you create more past experiences, right? Because if we want to make better decisions, we need all of this data, right, of past experiences. So can we create more past experiences so that we are better equipped to make good decisions? No surprises here. Author shares we can't make more past experiences. But the good news is we can lead and live our present knowing that my today is going to contribute towards a rich experience tomorrow, right? So what I did today is going to create an experience from the past in the future. I know it sounds a bit fuzzy, right? But of course, whatever we do right now, we're creating memories, right? So that is what the author encourages us to think about the present, is realize that right now we're in some way creating memories, we're in some way creating data. And when we adopt this perspective, we sort of create a buffer to a very fundamentally human tendency, which is aversion to change. So what the author has shared and what I've experienced with myself is we as humans, we're like really averse to new experiences, to things, to environments, to people that we're not used to dealing with. We try to, avoid confronting such phenomena. But if we proactively remind ourselves, hey, whatever I put myself through today, it's only going to contribute to a better tomorrow, then I sort of lose this avoidant frame of mind. And that's what the author suggests is the second very important step towards being good with making decisions, is to be open, simply to be open to new experiences, to new people. And when we expose ourselves to new experiences, we might not be better prepared for it, and we might in some ways win or lose. And he says that's fine, because again, me losing today is gonna just help me learn more and win tomorrow. Okay, so we've spoken about what we can do in the present, but what we can do about things in the past. So what can we do about the future? And in a way, what can we do about these things that we're hypothetically thinking about, right? This job offer, this decision of maybe moving to a new place. So the author suggests we do similar things as we do with things from the past, right? We introspect, and instead of reflecting, we imagine what we think the future ideally should be. And the author has a great reason for doing so, for imagining and visualizing the futures, because when we do visualize the future, an ideal future, we let ourselves tell us what we want, ideally, right? And when we do that, we actually know what we want, because very often in our everyday lives, we forget where we're heading. So when we imagine, visualize the future, we remind ourselves where we want to head. And when we do that, we sort of get a sense of direction. And apart from sort of, getting this ideal sense of direction, the author then encourages us to also be realistic. So the author tells us, okay, think about what you ideally want, but also think about realistically what other things could work out, right? So again, if it's a job prospect that I'm thinking about, right? I need to ask myself, what sort of a person do I want to be 5 years from now, right? And is this job gonna take me there, right? If it is, well enough. But if it's not, let me also consider a possible outcome of where else it might take me. And maybe I realize, okay, I wanted to do something else, but this job actually is gonna, expose me to this variety of other skills that I hadn't really thought about. And now that I'm thinking about these skills, I researched on the internet, I realized this is a good skill worth having. It's gonna not only make a good impact on my career, it's also gonna help me develop as a person. So yeah, I actually don't mind this plan B after all, right? So that's what the author encourages to do, is to think about an ideal future and also compare it with other possible realistic outcomes. And again, as we're thinking about the past, as we're introspecting things from the past, when we do imagine, anticipate the future, we do want to be aware of our internal biases, and we want to confront them, and we want to be proactive with them, again, not shy away from them, so that we open ourselves up to other possible outcomes too. And we don't make the same mistake I did hypothetically when I stepped out with my new shoes, hoping that it won't rain. So again, coming back to our original slide about decision making, right? It's predicting, preparing for the future based on the past experiences and our current understanding. Right? So what we spoke about this is we want to predict the future, thinking in terms of chances. We want to be open to new experiences, and all of this we want to base on our present understanding on these past experiences and on these hypothetical scenarios from the future, while we are in touch with our own intrinsic and the external biases. So this whole conversation, the author labels as an exercise and an experiment. He invites us to think of decision making as an exercise and as an experiment, right? And just as an exercise, right? If I want to go to the gym, I won't be able to do things that I want to do from day one, right? Day one, I won't be as strong as I want to do, as I want to be. I won't have the same standard that I want to be, but it's fine, right? I take every day as a process of learning, right? Or if I look at it as an experiment, again, I do my best, I give it my input, and I wait and I observe what the outcome is gonna be. So that's what the author asks us to think about when we think about decision making, is to look at it as an exercise and as an experiment. So I'd like to hear from you about some of the decisions you've made that you're happy about, maybe others that you're not so happy about, things that you learned. With that said, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so you can see more of me.
Thank you for that presentation, Apurva. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just, it's kind of a big question of what were the decisions that you were happy with and then the decision that you weren't, and what did you learn from them? I'm kind of reeling back and going, oh man, what were they? And yeah, it's not really related, but I also think about how so many of our decisions are not even conscious. You know, the like, oh, I'm buying this toothpaste. This is the one that I always use. This is the milk that I always purchase. You know, like there are some things that were just kind of on autopilot. And just kind of has me wondering, do I even like those autopilot decisions?
Yeah.
Are they even working for me, or am I just doing them because I've done them before? So I don't know how much I have to add, but I feel like you've given me a lot of things to think about.
Thank you. Yeah.
I can share something as well. I was thinking about the types of decisions I've made, especially the most impactful ones recently, and start my video. There we go. Especially the most impactful decisions I've made, and interestingly, I mean, the decision that I'm the most happy about is the one I trusted my instincts on, and it's the current decision that I'm living, which is to be here in California after living on the East Coast for a while. The decision I'm not so happy about was the one that ate at my gut, and the very being of my soul told me it was a bad idea, which was to move to Montana for a while to stay with my brother, which was a strained relationship at best. So I think your instincts have a lot to do with that too, and sometimes instincts don't have anything to do with past, present, or future experiences. Just a feeling you get. And maybe some of the other experiences do play in a little bit, but it's hard to draw from where those instincts come from sometimes, I think. There is a lot of food for thought, but thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Christopher.
Thanks, Chris. Apurv, I want to contribute real quick. Well, first, I'm unable to turn back on my video, but that's okay. You've seen me plenty of times.
Asked to start your video again, so there we go.
Found a slightly better lighting situation as well. In any event, as you were presenting a common thread, I noticed, especially when you're talking about reasons people don't make decisions, not having enough information or that things might not work out. To me, the common thread there is fear. And that getting rid of that is so huge to be able to approach things as an experiment, as an exercise. You got to remove that fear you have of whatever you're avoidant of, trying to avoid, and not take yourself so seriously. Get over yourself, get over your own ego. And yeah, that's really been key for me the past few years, and being able to, I always remind myself, or try to remind myself, to align my short-term actions with my long-term values. And that's served me well. So that's all from here.
Thanks for sharing that.
Namaskar, everyone.
Namaskar.
It's interesting he just brought up not making decisions. I found myself not making a decision, but it wasn't because of fear. It was because of too many choices. So I work at a gym and I'm a fitness instructor, and now we must wear masks while we work out. And I never worked out with a mask on. So I started to research masks to see which one will work best. And it was just too many. So I said, never mind, I'm going to use what I already have. So that works well. Being content with what you already have sometimes, and, you know, not trying to have too much, you know?
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. Great points. And I agree. Not making a decision is also a decision. And maybe in this case, I think it's a good one. Yeah, Charles, I could relate with that because for a pretty long time, I try to not make decisions, right? And in a way, I try to paint it in a good light. I try to tell myself, yeah, like I try to tell myself I'm in a similar situation as Anushila, right? There's so many options and they don't really matter much. So let me not make a decision. But then I realized it was my inherent bias, like this inherent fear of not making a decision. And I've also found myself on the other extreme end of that spectrum where out of ego, I was like, I am going to make a decision because I'm going to try to get to that fear. But guess what? There was no fear left, but I was just trying to, run this hamster wheel of trying to make most decisions to make myself good. So in that case, I had to stop myself and make myself realize, hey, this is that too many masks situation. And I'm trying to make a decision when it's not counting. So
You're ping-ponging back and forth between fear and ego, sounds like.
exactly.
Yeah, I can relate. Definitely.
We have a comment. My aunt said it's a nice presentation. Thank you. There's a message for Charles. Think short-term things for long-term value was a really meaningful thought. My dad liked your thought, Charles.
Yeah, I'm glad you're able to.
I'm curious, when we're talking about fear of making decisions, are we talking about the fear of making the decision itself or fear of making the wrong decision?
Yeah, fear of not making the optimal decision. So that can definitely come into play. And you get analysis paralysis, overthinking it instead of just going with something with your intuition, with your instinct, like you said.
The instinct, yeah, right.
You had asked me something just before that, Apurv, and I got I was responding to Chris. What was that question?
I think I was commending you that you said something that my dad liked. I was just saying that.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad she was able to get value from that. It's been so huge for me. Just who do I want to be, and the decision I'm making right now is that in service to that end?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but yeah, it's a great template, a great compass, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's also helped me, like thinking about it as an experiment has helped me. I think I read this book in 2012, like a year before I came to the United States. And at that point, I felt like I wasn't equipped to face the world. Like I didn't know enough about the world's biases. Maybe I knew my own biases, but not as much about the world's biases. So when I decided to overcome this fear of making decisions, I looked at it as an experiment, right? Let me experiment. Let me choose A over B. And whatever the outcome is, I'll embrace it because either it's something I like or something I learn. And that's helped me, for a while.
Yeah, being able to see the lesson in a mistake or, something didn't work out as you had hoped, that's vital.
Yeah. And at least in my case, it's been worth it. Like all the bad decisions have been worth it because today, like sitting here right now, I have this rich past filled experiences.
Right. I have to agree. Yeah, that's awesome.
Also plays into what we've talked about in previous weeks of having a growth mindset, so the growth mindset does view mistakes as an opportunity to learn something from them. And that's what we're talking about tonight too, of, okay, I made this decision in the past. This is how it worked out or didn't work out. And then let me ask why. It's that push towards growing, changing, creating a happier, healthier life, which you talked about at the beginning, Apurv.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also noticed in this book, as I'm putting all these presentations together, like one recurring theme is that the author, like he keeps repeating to not be attached to the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. Doing our best and then leaving the rest.
Yeah. It's tough, but yeah, that when you can put that into practice, you'll see great results from that. I agree.
Yeah.
I also like the part about creating options for ourselves and not getting married to one decision or another right away. That's been a big thing for me is marrying myself to one decision and then creating a lot of disappointment for myself when and if it doesn't work out the way I'd planned.
Hmm. Yeah. I think
And
that's a
also
tough
get
one.
into the sunken cost fallacy. That way you've made a wrong decision and you double down because you're already invested.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to step back, be objective, again, put your ego aside and say, is this working how I want? Do I have to continue down this course or can I pivot? Can I course correct?
Definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's a matter of humility, right? To accept I was wrong.
Definitely.